In this video, I'm going to talk about the 10 action steps that you need to take in order to become your own boss. Currently, there's been a lot of talk about 40% of Americans are going to possibly quit their jobs. We're calling it the Great Resignation of 2021. And if you're one of those people, you might be thinking, okay, how do I become my own boss? How can I quit? Because you're probably in a position like I was, where I hated working for somebody else, working in a corporate job, having to do things in and out, having to follow their rules, and deal with all these silly different regulations that maybe you'd want to actually quit because it's just not working out for you. I'm going to talk about 10 action steps that I had to personally take to become my own boss when I had to quit my medical job back in 2018. So I was in this position. So the very first step, really, when it comes to taking the action steps, is determine why you want to be your own boss. Back when I was working in a medical position at a clinic, I did not like having to do the ins and outs of working for somebody else. It was grueling. It was really taxing, especially having to deal with a lot of the micromanagement that was going on. I mean, when I got out of medical school, I thought, oh, great, now I'm a doctor and I get to do all this stuff, but it was not the vision job that I expected. And it was really sad. In fact, I thought, did I join the wrong profession? What did I get myself into? It was really daunting to me. And so I started thinking to myself, as I was still working in the clinic, I was running, what if I could just do this on my own? How would that be any different? And so one of the biggest things that I realized is that I felt like I was being restrictive of what I was capable of doing within the workforce that I was working in the clinic that I was working. And I wanted to be able to spread my wings, be able to really thrive and be able to really express myself in any way that I wanted to and do things in my own way. And that's why I determined to be my own boss and go and set and do things on my own. The second thing that I would say is that you need to evaluate your situation and your skills. So during the time, I didn't all of a sudden just abruptly just left. I did have a plan set in place, but I had to evaluate, okay, what are my skill sets? And as I was still working in the clinic, I was already starting my own clinic on the side, starting my own business on the side. And I come to realize that I really liked the business side of things. And I really loved marketing. I was really creative in that side. I started a different YouTube channel other than this one that really helped grow my business and grow my clinic by finding that creative outlet and finding that I really liked marketing a lot. And it was definitely a skill set that I did not know I had, but I know that was important for growing a business. So what are some skills that you do have that are something that can be really contributive to a business that you want to grow and becoming your own boss? You got to think about those things. You got to evaluate this before you start to exit out. The third thing that is really important of an action step is that you do need to plan your exit strategy of becoming your own boss. When I had to plan for this is I was a soon-to-be father. My wife was going to quit her job because she wanted to raise our kid at home. That was a decision she wanted to, and I wanted to support her in that. And so it was a lot of pressure coming onto me of we were in the middle of about having soon to be a child. And then of course, having me being the sole provider, which was a high pressure on me. But I had the full support of my wife, which meant everything for me because she had the full support of me knowing that I could do it and how she knew that I really hated where I was working at and the current working state that I was in, that I just wasn't happy. And she wanted to see me happy. And it made all the difference for her to support me and back me on my ambitions and to be happy because of why I joined and actually went through medical school to help people, and that she knew that this would actually help me pursue that by going on my own. But I had to plan things strategically. So like I said, what I was doing as I was working, I started working more part-time at this clinic as I was growing my practice on the side. And so I was having some income, and as soon as I started seeing some income coming in and more consistent income that wasn't exactly the ideal, but at least would cover the expenses. It would cover the bills, it would cover the rent. And so that's how I knew that I could exit out and leave. Now, what happened is my boss, because there was more people leaving the clinic, he was trying to put more pressure on me, and he actually wanted me to run the practice when he had no idea that I was actually leaving. And he was starting to micromanage more, and became a really bad work environment that I knew I had to leave. And we got into a bad argument, and really it ended up just ending all of a sudden. Really, it just kind of ended. And, it happened quicker than I thought, but I did plan way ahead where that was okay. And so I left, and that was the best thing that I could have ever done for me for becoming my own boss, because it really pushed me to really start thinking strategically of okay, now how am I going to bring in this extra income? The fourth thing is choosing a good business model. When you're first starting out, you want to kind of do things that are the try and true, things that do work, especially being your own boss. And these are like three things that I see is like being a freelancer, being a consultant or a coach, as well as getting into e-commerce. Now, for me, I was a doctor and, I did run my own practice and started doing that. But eventually over time, and this is where your business model can change over time, is I transitioned to doing more virtual stuff, especially with the pandemic happening. My business model has changed where I have shifted over to being more of a health coach and pursuing that, and it's grown my business exponentially by shifting. So your business model, you want to have it set, something that's tried and true, but doesn't mean it can't change over time. It has changed over time for me, but definitely that's something you want to look for when you are getting started to becoming your own boss. The fifth thing is you got to determine your target market. Who is it that the people that you want to serve? Who are your clients? Who are your potential clients or patients? So for me, even though I was doing general practice, when I started my practice, right, I was just seeing anybody. And over time, I became to really niche down and became really good at a skill set. And that really became narrowing it down where I'm doing now today, where I'm helping people who have issues with focus and productivity, have low energy, people who have attention issues. But more importantly, it's also looking at how can you help them transform their life, really transform all aspects of their life, but really narrowing down your market versus saying, oh, I'm serving everybody. Because if you're trying to serve everybody, you're going to serve nobody. The sixth thing is, after you've narrowed down your market, is you need to identify a problem and be able to sell it, whether that is a service or a product, something that you can actually provide to your clients in your target market. And, for me, it's really providing those different, really niched down services of people who are struggling with focus and productivity and attention, where I've narrowed that down more and more by helping people in all aspects. Because a lot of people, what I found, even though I served a lot of general population of all different kind of health concerns, when I started narrowing it down, it really is true of what I have suffered with, because I grew up with ADHD and dyslexia, but was able to go through college and medical school and running a thriving business and be able to learn. There was definitely struggles along the way, and there still is challenges going through that. But those are the people that I definitely knew I need to help and serve, because I had challenges with that, and therefore I wanted to help those people. And it helped me connect more to you, people who are probably, you guys are watching this video, but try to think about how can you connect to somebody? How can you provide that service or that product for somebody that is struggling? Maybe something that's similar that you struggled with, and you can help in that regard. The seventh thing, and this is really important, is figuring out your budget. So when you are looking at starting a business or going on your own, I would plan, and this is something that I didn't quite do, is that I would plan in your budget, have at least 6 months worth of savings. So whatever your expenses are monthly, have at least 6 months in savings that you're fine with if it ends up going away, because business is hard. It's not easy. It takes years and years to get things really going and getting started on track and start generating money for yourself, so you're getting a paycheck, and so it becomes more profitable. So you got to plan for that. Something that I didn't quite do because I had to leave my job sooner than expected because of the situations that I had, but I still did plan it and budget, and I was really conservative with my expenses. So how I would do that is look at every month, really, okay, what do I really need? What is being profitable? Making sure I'm using things that are more profitable, that give me more income into my business versus something that wasn't profitable. So if I didn't see it was profitable, I took it out of my expenses. So it's something you have to just kind of budget and keep in mind about when you are trying to be your own boss, and especially when you're quitting your day job. The eighth thing that I think this is most critical out of anything is really developing marketing and sales skills. So I knew even early on, before I even went into medical school, I knew I had to develop sales skills. I knew whatever profession you go into, it's important to know how to sell yourself. And I had a lot of experience of doing door-to-door sales, phone sales. I did this a lot in college. And I was surprised by a lot of my medical colleagues that had no experience in sales, especially when I went on my own and had other colleagues that tried to start up their own businesses. They sucked at it. Doctors aren't really good when it comes to sales and marketing, because they are really good at the science stuff, but when it comes to the business and sales and marketing, they suck at it, because we get like 1-2 classes of business classes in medical school, which is pathetic. And it's really a detriment, and what they should be really changing in the medical industry is helping us out a little bit more on the business side. But if there's 2 skills that you should be always constantly developing over and over time again, and something that I always am constantly investing in developing, is is marketing and doing sales. If you can sell yourself, your business will thrive. If you can learn how to do marketing, your business will thrive. Eventually, as you get bigger and bigger, sure, you will hand off those kind of jobs to maybe other people, but initially you're going to want to be able to have those skills. But even for when you are the CEO and you're running a big company, you still want to have those skills and always developing those skills. The ninth thing that I would say is turning your vision into action. Now, these can be all great vision. You have this great business plan, but if you don't put it into action, nothing happens. We can get in this rut where we watch a lot of YouTube videos like this one, and you just constantly are just learning and educating yourself, but you don't take action. This is something that I would always apply. Anytime I would watch any kind of educational videos, whether it was a YouTube video or something that I bought, I would watch a little bit about it and then I would take action immediately. Even if it was just a small step, because it starts really training yourself. It gets you in the process of doing trial and error and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Is this working for your business? And you just got to keep on experimenting with these things and take it into action so you see what does work, because then your vision doesn't come to pass if you aren't going to do action. So that is critical. Now, the 10th thing, and I find this was probably the best thing that I could have ever done, and I highly encourage you, especially do it early on as possible, is invest in yourself and in your business. Early on, probably about a year into my business, now I was starting to pick up some traction, but it wasn't like I was bringing in a ton of money, and I didn't have a ton of money to invest, but I decided to invest in a business coach because I was kind of hitting my head against the wall, trying these different things, watching some YouTube videos, doing some things like that. And it just wasn't quite getting me where I wanted to, or at least the pace that I wanted to. So I decided to hire a business coach. It was a big chunk of money to invest in, but it was definitely by far the best thing that I ever did for my business. It definitely doubled my income. And then I keep on continuing investing in business coaches. Like the one I did recently has tripled my income. And it just continues. You want to be able to invest somebody who has paved the path already, knows what they're doing. It could save you 2 to 5, even 10 years of headache from what you think you could possibly do. Why don't hire somebody who knows what to do and can show you the path? The important thing, though, with all of these different steps, it all becomes pointless if you can't focus, if you're not productive, because you can have all these great strategies, but if you're not focused and productive in implementing these strategies and you have a distracted mind, then it becomes pointless. So the best thing is to really improve your mind. So what I have for you in the description below is a free training of my focused mindset formula. It goes over my proprietary process of helping my clients have a more focused and productive mind, having that optimal mind so that they can be more productive in becoming their own boss in their business and excel in every aspect in their life. So watch the training in the description below, and I will see you in the inside. Thanks. Bye.